Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our next session on ABAP learning series. So yesterday we have created this program, okay, and we have created three different include programs to have different sections of the data. So in the first include, which is top, we have created to declare all the data types, select option, selection screen, everything. So all the declaration part was there in the first include. And the second include, we have this program logic. That means all the events of the program. And in the second include program, we have this programming logic. In the third include program, we have the logics for all the subroutines. Okay, now let's create a separate program to understand how the subroutine works. Okay, so here I have created a new program. Okay, so now let's copy this include program and put it now. Execute. So here you can see the selection screen is ready-made because I have created an include program for the data declaration. So I just copied that include program and paste it over here, and you can see all the selection screen and declarations are already copied. Okay, so this is the reusability. This is called reusability. Okay, so and this is the biggest advantages of using the include programs. Now maintain the text symbols and everything. Okay, so your selection screen is ready. Okay, now let's see what is a subroutine. Okay, let's have our initializing. Now let's write our subroutine. Okay, so case gc underscore mark, right? So this selection case statement logic everyone knows, right? So we don't have to explain it further. So today we will just see what is our subroutine. Okay, so now how to declare a subroutine. First is use the keyword perform. Okay, then give a name, get flights. Okay, let's put this comment. Okay, so your subroutine is ready. Okay, so now inside your subroutine you need to double click to define the subroutine. Okay, so this is called as perform statement is used to call the subroutine, but first you need to create a subroutine. So to create a subroutine you need to double click on the get underscore flights. Okay, then click on yes, then select the program name. Okay, so the subroutine form and end form has been created. So this is your subroutine, and this is you are calling the subroutine get underscore flights using the keyword perform. Now inside this subroutine get underscore flights you put your programming logic. Wow, what just happened? Let's copy this logic. Okay, so I have put all my logic. Okay, now similarly here at end of selections where we did you need to do the all the processing of the data. So let's put our output there. Okay, in end of selection, control C. Okay, so your logic is working. Okay, but that means your get flights is working, right? And similarly perform output. Okay, copy this loop statement, double click on the output to create the subroutine, select the program, paste your logic. Okay, now you have created a subroutine for the output as well. Okay, so everything is working as it is. Okay, but say I am a new person in your team and someone else has created this program and now I am coming here. Okay, so if I want to maintain this program, I don't know. So if I see this program, okay, this is the top include, all the data declaration is there, and this is get flights, all the declarations are there, this is output, and the related logic for the output also there. Okay, when I go inside I can see the logic. Okay, to understand this get flight subroutine and to understand this output, I need to go inside the subroutine to see what are the fields are used in this one. Okay, what are the fields used or what are the data types or types have been used inside this subroutine. So I need to go inside the subroutine and understand. And when I see, okay, so I will understand that so underscore char is an input field, so underscore con is an input field, so underscore fdt is an input field, and using those input fields I will get the records into internal table lt underscore flight. Okay, and similarly if I go back and double click on the output, when I go inside the subroutine, then I will understand, okay, So it is looping into lt underscore flight internal table using the work area gs underscore flight, and then it is writing the output. Okay, so this is a small program, so I don't mind to go inside each subroutine to understand what subroutine is done, because this program has only one subroutine and this is one total two subroutine. Okay, so I can go inside and check. But if I open a program which has hundreds of subroutine, it is very difficult for me to understand, right? So to make it understand, we need to pass parameters to the subroutine. Okay, when you pass parameters, okay, okay. When I use the parameter, I don't have to go inside this. Okay, so by seeing the parameter using and parameter changing, I can tell this subroutine is going to use the parameters so underscore char, so underscore con, and so underscore fdt. Okay, and using these parameters, it will change the value of the internal table lt underscore flight. Okay, similarly, if I add the parameter here using lt underscore flight, that means this is the subroutine to output the data using internal table lt underscore flight. Okay, so I don't have to double click on the output subroutine and go inside and see what happens. By looking at this only, I can tell, okay, this is the output subroutine, and it output, it uses the data from the internal table lt underscore flight for the output. Okay, so by reading this, it is understandable what the subroutine does. Okay, so similarly here also, so it is always a best practice to pass parameters to a subroutine. Okay, and when you pass this parameter, okay, so the parameters also need to be added in the subroutine creation as well, here as well. Okay, using, you can give the same name or you can give a different name, that is fine. P underscore, so when you double click, and if you pass this parameter and you double click on the get flights, it will automatically give a separate names over here. Okay, so if you want, okay, let's create the subroutine again. Okay, select the program and double click, so you can see it already has this parameters. So it is the same name, but p underscore has been added before it, so it will make understand that these are the parameters used, okay, while calling the subroutines. Okay, so now the parameters you see while it is being called, these are called as actual parameters. Okay, and the parameters here are called as formal parameters. Okay, because this the coding for this subroutine will be placed once in a program, but you can use multiple perform statements with the same parameters whenever you want to perform such actions. Okay, so in that case what happens, these are the actual parameters. That means if you are calling this subroutine here, then you are passing certain set of inputs, right? And if you are calling the subroutine somewhere else, then you are passing input at that point of time. Okay, so that is why it is called as actual parameters. But these are parameters which can be used inside the subroutines only. So these are called as formal parameters. Okay, so now pass the codings here. Okay, save it. Now activate. So it is saying different number of parameters in the form and perform routine output. So here we have added this parameter using lt underscore flight, but here we have not used any. Okay, okay. So here if you see, we are using this p underscore so underscore char, p underscore so underscore con, pu underscore so underscore fdt, but in the select statement we are still using the select options, right? Because these are declared over the top include, you can still access those inside our subroutines. Okay, but this is wrong. Why? When you are passing the subroutines to use p underscore so underscore char, p underscore so underscore con, p underscore so underscore fdt, but when you are not using these parameters in your logic, so that is a fundamentally wrong. Okay, so instead of using those, you need to use these parameters in your select statement. Okay, I think p underscore. Now if you see, now save this one and check. So if you see, it says the p underscore so underscore char is not an internal table. P underscore so underscore char is not internal table because all the select statements they have used this, right? So it is saying this is not an internal table, this is also not an internal table, this is also not an internal table. But why the select option is an internal table? That is why it is expecting this to be an internal table. Let's find out. Okay, now put a breakpoint here. Okay, so here if you see, we have given this airline ID AA and QF and type of flight. Let's select all flights. Okay, now execute this one. So if you see this GC underscore marks is X and PA underscore R has been selected as X. That is why we are selecting all the flights. Okay, and these are SOCAR, SOCON and SOFDD. These are select options. Am I correct? So when you see this SOFDD, this is a structure. Okay, it has only one record. But if you select this SO underscore FTD, it is an internal table. It has 4 fields: sign, option, low, high. Okay, so SOCON also, it is an internal table, but it is a select option, right? So from here you confirm that select options are of type internal table, which have 4 columns and many rows. Now if you see this SO underscore char, okay, so here you can see the sign, option, low, high. Okay, so this is AA, this is QF and this is sign. That means E. That means it will select all the flight for which the IDs are in between AA and QA except AZ, because AZ has been excluded. Okay, now press F8 and see. If you see this is the low field, this is a high field. That means it will select all the airlines between AA and QA. But if you click on this, you can see there are several different tabs, right? So whatever you see, this ranges. Okay, if you see, this is the low range, lower limit, and this is the upper limit. So all the airlines between AA and QF will be selected. But if you select this tab, okay, this is exclude single values. Okay, that means this AZ will be excluded from the selection, right? So these are all the informations your select options can hold, right? It is now interesting, I know. Now close this one and again execute this. Okay, now if you see the select option SOCAR, this is a structure. Okay, if you see this table, it has sign, option, low, high. So this is the range AA, QA, and here we are using the excluding options, single value AZ. Okay, so now you understand the select options are like internal table which has 4 columns such as sign, option, low and high. Okay, so that is why when we have created this subroutine, okay, we are passing the select options here. Okay, but inside subroutines it is not able to interpret these parameters as an internal table. Okay, so that is why we need to define this as an internal table. So how you will define? As type, and here you need to have an table type. then only this p underscore so underscore car will be of table type. Okay, so to overcome that, I am declaring these types. Okay, to overcome that, I am declaring these types r underscore char, r underscore con, r underscore fdt, r underscore tab, type range of carrier id, con id, fl date, and this is the view, right, we are using in our program. So if you double click this dv flight, you can see this is the view from which you are selecting this data. Okay, so here I am creating this types r underscore char, r underscore con, r underscore fdt, r underscore tab. These are table type. Okay, range table we call this, with this many fields. Okay, now put those types inside this top include. Okay, so I have put all these types inside this top include. Now okay, so here we need to pass the type. Okay, here also type r underscore flight, right? Okay, r underscore tab. Okay, so now save this, check. So here if you see, it says get flights, the actual parameter so char and formal parameter p underscore so underscore car are incompatible. Okay, so char is the header line of table so underscore char. Okay, so in last debugging session we understand that the select options are table. Okay, but when we are passing this table using so underscore char, it is considering this as a structure. Okay, so now put a breakpoint in the previous program that we have debugged, right? Yes, execute. Let's execute this. If you see the select options, okay, so when you double click the select options, there are two things. So this so underscore fdt as well as so underscore fdt with this brackets. Okay, so whenever you see this bracket, it is an internal standard table, initial standard table. Okay, and this is a standard table because this fdt and connection we have not passed any parameters, so these are empty. So that is why you can see initial standard table, but for carrier id we have passed some information, that is why you can see this standard table, right? But when we are passing here in this, we are passing this so underscore char. Okay, but here we have passed this as a table. Okay, and here we are passing this so underscore char, and if you see this debug mode, this so underscore char is of structure, not internal table. And if we pass the select option as an internal table, we need to add this brackets, right? So just go back to this program and add the bracket over here. Okay, okay, now check. So there are no errors. And changing this lt underscore flight, we have not passed any bracket, because this lt underscore flight, if you double click, it is already declared as a table type, right? Type table of db flights. So we do not need to pass brackets over here. Okay, so now take this one. See, there is no syntax error. Now activate everything and execute. Okay, you see the same results, right? So now you understand how complex is the select options, right? And how it is different from the parameters, where the parameter is can only accept only one value, but you can pass different specific select options in the select option. You can pass different selection conditions in the select options. Okay, so now I think you almost have clear understanding of what a select option is and how you can pass the parameters in the perform statements. Okay, and if you don't pass any parameters in the perform or subroutine, that is also fine, but you can pass it as well, right? So these subroutines can be used any number of time in any program. Okay, and for that you don't have to write the same set of codes again and again. Okay, you can just call the subroutine and it will directly point to the code where the subroutine has been defined, right? So this is the advantage of the subroutine. So in our next session we will see the next modularization technique, that we call it as a function module. Okay, so tomorrow we will discuss that. So till then, you all take care and practice few examples to have a good understanding. Until so, let's meet in our next session. Till then, bye, take care.